Guys, welcome to my video on the very invasive lionfish and its effects on Belize. In case you don't remember, I'm Ginger Bailey, and let's start. Okay, so there are two main species of lionfish. There is Turoi volatin and Turoi miles. And these species are so identical that they kind of just refer to them as the same creature. The lionfish is a carnivorous fish, meaning that it eats other fish, and it is native to the Indo-Pacific Ocean, which can be seen in the map on the right in the orange. So as you guys can see, it stays pretty close to land in the shallower, warmer waters. That's what it likes. And they are covered in those very distinctive brownish red stripes with it looks fluffy, but they're not friendly. These big spines and fins and tentacles, like you can see in the picture on the bottom right. There are 13 dorsal spines, 10 to 11 dorsal soft rays, and 3 anal spines, and 6 to 7 soft anal rays. So a lot of spines and fins. However, these spines do contain venom, and this venom contains protein, a neuromuscular toxin, and acetylcholine. What this venom does is it will cause severe pain, sometimes paralysis, twitching. If you get struck with some of the spines that get venom into your body, you need to call a doctor immediately. These fish can be as large as 18 inches, but juveniles can be as small as 1 inch, so size. Okay, so why are lionfish a problem? Well, lionfish have been found to be very invasive. Recently, since 1985, they have been found on the southeastern coast of the United States, all the way from Florida to North Carolina. Some of these smaller juvenile lionfish have even been captured all the way up in New York, which is a long way from here. But I guess they're colonizing whatever they can. They have taken over many of the Caribbean reefs, including the one alongside Belize. So they have stamped it as their new home. Scientists are thinking that they were probably released out to the Atlantic. These fish are ornamental aquarium fish. As you can see, they're very beautiful. So they're thinking that someone probably either accidentally or maybe purposely released it out there, and I guess it really caught on to the area down here. The problem with them, though, is they have no known predators, so nothing is going to eat them or cause them any competition or trouble. And they can reproduce all year long, which means that they don't take a break. They're going to be spawning the whole year. Females can spawn as many as 2 million eggs per spawn. It's a lot of babies. So they're pretty good at getting their numbers up high. They can consume over 50 species of fish, but some of the sources that I read said they can consume way more. I'm just assuming with more research, we're going to be finding out new things about how they have made this their home and how they're adjusting. Okay, so how are they affecting Belize? They first showed up in Belize in December of 2008, so almost 2009. The problem is that they will compete with the snapper and grouper, which these are two main fish that the Belizeans use for food to help support themselves. So they also just attack two big sources of income for Belize, which is tourism and fishing, both of which we learned in class. As the Belizeans don't really like tourism, they do need it to help support themselves. So think about it. If you're swimming through the coral reef, you want to see the big variety of fish that Belize has to offer. But if the lionfish is eating a lot of these fish and deteriorating their populations, it's not going to be as beautiful as an experience as you would think, and people may not want to go out and scuba dive and snorkel as often. And with fishing, like I said earlier, if they're going to be attacking and providing competition to the snapper and the grouper, these Belizeans aren't going to have the same food to eat, and they may go hungry with these fish populations decreasing. Services combined from tourism and fishing, it is $395 to $559 million, and that's a lot to me. For Belize, that's a lot. So they need these two big sources of income for themselves. But that was 2008, so maybe even more now. I'm not exactly sure, since it's 2020, 12 years later. Um, these lionfish have 2 to 3 times the negative impact compared to other predators among the reef, so they are going to be more negatively affecting it than those of native predators. Um, Another problem that I've noticed in my research is that lionfish don't care. They're going to prey on endangered fish as well. One of these fish is the social race. Um, so with these critically endangered fish, if the lionfish is just going about eating them, they may cause these fish to go extinct and cause great ecological impact and disturbance in the food chains and whatnot. Sadly, what I found is that eradication is no longer considered possible. So there's no way of completely getting rid of the lionfish from the Caribbean coral reefs and southeastern United States and everywhere from here. So, but efforts have been mainly focused on decreasing their numbers to a more sustainable level. So I did a few studies in this PowerPoint to kind of show you scientifically how the lionfish have been affecting Belize. From 2011 to 2014, researchers did a study where they caught over 1,000 lionfish and dissected them to see what kind of prey they had in their bellies, to see what exactly species are these lionfish eating. So they found that large lionfish compared to medium size and small size had the highest abundance and prey, so the highest number of species that they were able to eat, which makes sense. So medium size next and small size later on. If you look at the chart on the right, you can see the bar to the right is the small, the medium is the middle is the medium sized fish, and the large is on the right. The small fish consume more invertebrates, smaller little creatures, and the large fish consume more vertebrates, which makes perfect sense. The smaller fish would need to have the easier, smaller vertebrates to eat, while the larger fish would need a little bit more bang for their buck when they're going hunting. Something else from this study I noticed is that reproductive females were able to consume more than non-reproductive females. This means that the reproductive females needed a more bigger variety, I guess, of species. They needed to eat a little bit more because they are reproducing. And like I said, 2 million eggs per spawn, that's a lot. They need to support themselves. So basically what this research did is it just proved that these medium and large lionfish are generalist eaters, which is a problem, which means that they're going to eat anything that they need. Like, there's nothing going to be conflicting with them. They don't care. They're going to eat it. So what they wanted to point out in this study that it is important to catch and kill these smaller lionfish while they're still small, consuming those smaller invertebrates, rather than the large fish that are eating these bigger reef fish, so that these smaller fish don't get big enough to grow into these bigger lionfish predators. So just get them out of the way before they become a problem, basically, is what they were suggesting. So study 2, like I said, the endangered fish, the social race, I know you'd come back to this one, which is the Halochorus socialis. It is a small fish that hovers, and they like to follow in schools with their other companion fish. They are critically endangered for the Belizean Barrier Reef. So unfortunately, they are being attacked by the lionfish. So the study, they cut open 44 lionfish, and what they found that even though this social race was critically endangered, the lionfish did not care. It was most frequently found in the bellies of these lionfish. They found a total of 49 social races, which was the highest number of all the other fish. It was 46% of the total prey found, and it was found in 41% of lionfish's bellies. So 41% of the lionfish had consumed these social races. And they would like to avoid extinction, but the problem is that these social races are also very susceptible to their habitat degradation and development, so it's very important that we kind of control those variables as well. Since the lionfish, it's a little bit harder to control since they're populations are growing out of control. And they also said that scientists in Belize need to go ahead and consider the effects of species loss, because if these social races were to go extinct, that this could have detrimental effects to other species within the food chain. And as you can see on the picture on the left, those are two female social races, mature at the bottom, that were inside the belly of the lionfish pictured. So perfect prey for that lionfish, unfortunately. All right, this last study kind of confused me a little. They wanted to study the effects of the lionfish on the Belizean reef fish. And this study took place from 2009, so not too long after the lionfish started to become introduced into Belize, and then to 2013, so a 4-year study. What they use is a modified BACI design, which is a before-after control impact. So what they're doing is they're looking at the effects of the lionfish before they really got stamped onto this Belizean barrier reef, and then after they became known. And they looked at this across 16 sites along the reef, so plenty of sites to kind of tell differences. What they found from these years is they found no measurable effects on species density, richness, composition of these reef prey fishes, including the race and parrotfish, which are two very important fish. Like we said, the race was endangered, and the parrotfish are very important to the reef as they control algal populations. So it kind of confused me a little. They did say that they think that greater lionfish populations are needed to see efforts. They said that there might have been differences, but they were so minute that it made no ecological importance. And the only thing that I could think that could maybe now, this was 7 years ago. This is 2020 now, so I figured it's probably a lot different now. Maybe the lionfish has become more colonized than it was back in 2013. But this isn't bad news to know that perhaps maybe it's not as bad as we may think it is. Okay, so some solutions to kind of controlling the lionfish population in Belize. It does taste very similar to grouper and cod, which are very popular fish for people to eat. The problem is that these toxic spines, like I was saying in the introduction, they scare these Belizean fishermen because they're not used to these fish, and the venom is very toxic. So what conservationists are doing is they're coming into Belize to help teach some of these fishermen how to safely handle and process these fish. So they're going to teach them how to catch them and cut them without getting the venom injected into them. So there is a town in Belize called Placencia. It is a town that has an FDA-approved lionfish processing center. So all the villagers from all around will come bring in the lionfish that they caught. And this little processing center will process them, and they can send them out of country, even to the United States, which I think is very cool. It's very good for Belize. Another thing that they are doing to help control population is they have lionfish hunts and tournaments. Kind of exciting. With the lionfish hunts and stuff, their main methods of catching these fish are spearfishing, which I think is the most popular from what I found, nets, and line fishing. Another good thing about this is there is no limit from the Belizean government about how many you can catch. You can catch as many as you want. As you can see in the top picture, that is a lot of lionfish that were going to Placencia. And that, like I said with the other study, people really needed, when they're hunting, they really need to focus on catching the smaller lionfish before they get too big. I understand it is so much funner to catch a bigger fish than a smaller fish. A big fish story is really good to tell your families, but as a scientist point of view, we only realize that these smaller fish would help the balance of the Belizean barrier reef more. So these were all the references that I used to help me make this presentation for you guys, and I hope you guys learned something. I sure did. And I wish we could have seen these little guys, because I've never seen one like in real life out of an aquarium, so it would have been very cool. But now that we know they're on the coast of Georgia, maybe we'll see them more often. You never know. But thank you guys. Have a wonderful day.